For more on what we heard from President Xi at the summit, let me turn to Peter Lee at University of Houston downtown. He's Associate Professor of East Asian Politics and joins us from Houston. Professor, your takeaway from what we heard from President Xi basically calls for a global consensus on biodiversity, saying multilateralism is really what's needed to protect the Earth.
Absolutely. I just have a copy of his speech in front of me. President Xi's speech reflected China's long-term nature conservation position. But I believe that several points of his remarks to the high-level sessions call for special attention. And these are international solidarity and cooperation, the need to help the developing world, and the importance of nature conservation on an equitable and equal footing, and also conservation in the spirit of multilateralism, as you just said, while calling for green conservation, green conversion of modes of production. President Xi also called for green consumer or green lifestyle, in my opinion, targeting all the consumers in the world, but in my opinion, targeting Western consumers in particular. But he also said that China would continue to support global efforts for nature conservation, and would, especially developing countries, as your journalist just mentioned, by utilizing the Road and Belt Initiative and also the Kunming Biodiversity Fund.
Well, talk about why this issue of biodiversity, saving Earth's nature, preventing biodiversity loss. Why is this so important for China and really the rest of the world? Talk about why the stakes are so high here.
As the General Secretary of the United Nations Assembly, said that if we don't conserve nature, humanity will face the imminent danger of destruction and whatever, or and also economic consequences. So it's not just a nature that we should protect. We are actually protecting humankind in effect.
And what is the final framework for you? What would it look like? How would you define success from this conference with all these disagreements over finance and funding right now?
We see quite a drama during COP15 in Montreal. As you know that yesterday, 70 countries walked out of the session in protest against the failure of commitment by the industrialized North. According to different estimates, as much as $200 billion to $700 billion is needed annually for nature conservation, for nature restoration. According to Paulson Institute estimate, it calls for $598 billion. This is much bigger than the GDP of most developing countries. So the developing countries are calling for this, a special funding mechanism so that the funds can go mostly to the developing countries. That has been, one of the contentious issues at this conference. So I personally believe if the financing issue cannot be resolved, there will be no, final framework for conservation for the next 8 years.
And that is not a good thing. We'll have to leave it there. Peter Lee, thank you very much.